to talk a little bit about high chroma colors. Cadmiums, specifically, for now, cadmium yellow deep, cadmium red, light, deep, and medium, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, phthalo green. That's there are others, but these are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Even viridian green is a very high chroma color. Those colors all, what happens to them if you add just a hint of white, they become very strong, very high chroma. You add more white and they immediately die. But what I'm talking about really is using them as a tool to make your painting sparkle, to give strength to your painting. Over the years, I've had a number of discussions with people during workshops and some personal time working with them, in which I suggested that they leave the cadmiums out of the picture, or leave the high chroma colors out of the picture when you're washing the picture in, when you're washing your painting in, when you're doing your first layer. Not everybody washes their painting in. Sometimes they just start painting right away. But during your first iteration of your scene, leave those colors out of it. Just leave them out. And the response was almost universally, but I really like that color. Yeah, well, I do too. I share that with these folks, But what's required so much is a little bit of self-discipline. The stuff you like the best is the stuff you should probably leave till last. That's why when I paint, if I'm going to wash a painting in, I'll start with the lines, obviously, the line drawing, and then I'll wash them in. I'll block in my colors, very low value, very low chroma, because I can build up from there. I keep my cards close to my chest, as it were. As the painting develops, and I work in different areas of that painting, I am aided by what's already there in making my decisions as to what I'll put on top of it. So obviously we're not talking about a la prima painting, but certainly on larger paintings it's important to sort of work your way around. Develop an area, develop a different area, and you can make your decisions from different areas of a painting. As to what kind of colors you will use next, what kind of value, what kind of chroma, etc. I guess I should qualify what I'm saying right away. I'm not giving everybody advice as to how they should paint. I'm only telling you how I go about it, all right? So there are numerous ways of going about things. I'm only, my process is only one of those processes. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you how to paint, I'm telling you how I go about it. So, as I move along through a painting, for example, the one behind me here, I wash in with, my brightest yellows will still only be yellow ochre with some raw umber and no white. And not even thinned off too much. Just a little bit of turpentine or paint thinner, and I'll sort of block in that area. To begin with, it's a very unrewarding process because you don't get that instant gratification of, oh, look at this, how this is coming together. You know, I take joy from doing my drawing, and I take some not comfort, but I take some enjoyment from seeing the colors blocked in. Helps to, as the painting is built, it helps for me to see how things are coming together, because in my mind's eye I have a pretty good idea of what I want ultimately to be the project in its finished state. It always changes. Every time it changes a little bit. You know, if you were to wash in your painting and use cadmiums, to begin with, they're far too high a chroma to begin with. They're very intense, very bright. And then you're thinning it off with paint thinner, turpentine, mineral spirits, whatever you're going to use. Because you've thinned it off, you've already got that white canvas refracting light and reflecting light back through those colors. So once you have a nice wash in with all these intense, beautiful cadmiums, yellows, I'm thinking yellows and reds right now, what's left? You've played all your cards. How is it possible for you to take this screen that is only two-dimensional? How is it going to be that you can now suddenly make it appear to be three-dimensional if you've already played all your colors, if all of your brightest stuff is in there? Now, technically, I know it's best to start low value, make it dark, and bring it up light. Any artist will tell you that, unless they are going to be using glazes. That's different process, different way of doing things. As I said, I'm only trying to explain to you how I go about things. I like to start dark, work my way up, make it light. So I leave cadmiums alone completely. I don't touch them during my wash-in. So I'll block everything in, fairly, I won't say dark colors, I'll say low values. Reasonably high saturation. And to begin with, it actually looks like a commercial illustration. After that, I'll start to add color, raising the value, and chroma in areas, and even a few details here and there. Because my initial sketch is just to try to organize the composition. So, as you've seen, if you watch my videos, you'll see that I usually work from the distance to the foreground, but not always. Sometimes I will do the entire background and water if there is water, and then I'll work on the foreground and whatever other sort of elements of the painting come along. I've even just stained the entire background and then worked in the foreground. I violate the rules all the time. I have no problem doing it. But then I've been at this for 560 years. I would suggest, though, anybody who's new to it, any of you guys who are new or novices, kind of stick with the old guidelines of work your way from the distance to the foreground when you're painting in. I would also recommend the rule of thirds, or the guidelines of thirds when you're drawing your painting in too. Like, just get your basic composition in line, and don't worry about minute things. Don't fuss with the small stuff, because all you'll end up doing is being frustrated and confused. But I'm supposed to be talking about high chroma colors. Now, on a painting like this, my colors in the sky are cobalt blue, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, hints of hints of alizarin crimson, and obviously titanium white. I've seen far too many videos and talked to too many people who say, but I love phthalo blue. I just love it. It's a beautiful color. So they'll wash in the entire sky with phthalo blue. Well, again, I share that. I share that with you. I love phthalo blue. But because phthalo blue is so intense, it's a wonderful color. Why don't I wash in the sky and the general design of the sky with ultramarine blue and cobalt blue? I warm it up with a little bit of yellow ochre usually, and some white. And then, towards the end of me painting the sky, why don't I then I'll take that phthalo blue, add a little bit of white, and put it in just a few strokes in just the right places to punch it up. Save the best till last. If you have the entire thing washed in phthalo blue, where are you going to go? You've already played all your cards. Dumb it down to start with. Bring it up. Phthalo blue is your finale, you know? It's your coup de grace. It's your crescendo in your little symphony, right? So that's how I feel about phthalo blue in the sky regarding the blues. Okay. I haven't used any phthalo blue on this. I'm not going to. I like phthalo blue for little panels sometimes, and sometimes for larger paintings, but not this one particularly. Yeah, you know, the painting's not done. Okay, I haven't done any more on it than I did a couple of nights ago or last night. But I just wanted to talk about high chroma colors, specifically, I suppose, cadmiums. Here, this little spot is almost straight cadmium red. Cadmium red is such a high saturation color, cameras have difficulty picking it up. Even the human eye has a bit of a difficulty picking it up unless you give it some variety. You can add a little bit of white, titanium white, you can add a little cad red orange or cad orange, you can add a little cad yellow, just to give it a slight variety. Even when I painted a red shed, I've done so many red sheds, I never have straight shots of cadmium red at all. I always vary it a little bit to keep it interesting. Even though it's so high saturation, you need to vary it. You need to lean towards purples, or you need to lean towards oranges, really, is what it comes down to. And some pinks in there as well. But this painting, I'm just going to roll back, and I may or may not light something. Don't worry, it's not the delusional stuff. So, we'll ignore this because I've kept this subdued. Let's talk about this area. All this bush back here. That's a big band of bush. That's a lot of paint coverage on it's a 24-36 inch painting. So you need to have variety in here. So you have variety of shape, right? These different spires of trees. A little bit of green intermingled, a little bit of red and orange here and there. Really, the only almost straight cadmium red is right here. I have a couple of shots of almost cadmium orange here, here, and here. maybe a couple of spots. Cadmium orange deep is, the straight stuff is here, here, a bit here, a bit here. Cadmium yellow pale, here, here, and here. So, you know, cadmiums are great, but you need to use them sparingly. Had I gone cadmium all over the place, what's special? There is nothing to compare it to. What brings out a bright color is the toned down, lower value, lower chroma colors that surround it. Okay, so my cadmiums in this entire area are really here, here. That's it. Everything else, when I was making my reds, it was yellow ochre, combinations of yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, or yellow ochre and burnt sienna, all over the place. Or going into the purples a little bit, because we need to cool colors down in certain areas. That would be yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, and a bit of cobalt blue, or a little bit of ultramarine blue. You know, so it's remarkable. You see all of this bright color in here. It's really not. There's not a lot of cadmium used in here. It's pretty much earth tones, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, and where it has to cool down is adding a little bit of cobalt blue or ultramarine blue to make it. It doesn't look purple, but it is just a little bit. It doesn't look purple because it's sitting against this very strong blue. So reserve it, withhold it. You know, don't give everything on your first date, for crying out loud. Save it till you're married. Commit to it. Once you've committed to it, then go for it. But use it sparingly. So this all looks very intense only because everything else is toned down. You know, water down to here. Rock's dark. This is dark. The sky even goes dark. Well, low value, maybe not dark. But yes, I've always been haunted by that argument that I've heard from my students in the past. But I really like that color. Yeah, so do I. I don't care. Use a little self-discipline when you're washing it in, when you're grounding your painting, when you're setting the scene. Tone it down, knowing, being confident that you will raise that up later on. But my goodness, don't say everything to start with. When you start, shut up. Mumble things. As you work your way through the painting, then begin to speak more clearly. A concerto of Beethoven, they begin with a theme, right? The drawing, that's the theme. They develop the theme, give you some variations of the theme. That's the wash-in. You approach the crescendo. When the crescendo arrives, that's your final sparkle. That's your highest chromas and your highest values, right? And, well, okay, that's about it. Usually the crescendo is towards the end of the symphony. So leave it at that. But have the self-discipline to keep everything toned down. Leave alone your phthalos. Leave alone your quinacridone magenta 2. Great color, great color. Used sparingly. Again, some artists pull it off well with their technique. I'm only talking about mine. So spare your jewels, use them well, but do not even begin to introduce them in your painting until you have all the groundwork laid in. And your groundwork, just use earth tones. Just keep everything subdued. Work your way up. That's actually, in the long run, Using that bit of self-discipline is much more rewarding. It makes a painting more fun. It also makes a painting more mature looking. It also, because you've laid light over dark, it aids in that glow that you can apply to a painting. And a glow it is. It's actually, it works very well. Works well for me. I think that's about all that I have to complain about tonight. Had a great visit with my brother-in-law. We'll see where it goes. You know, I said that, you know, next time you see the painting it'll be finished. It's not, I don't know if it'll be done tomorrow either, but I had a question from somebody, I think maybe it was Broody, yesterday, that reminded me that maybe I should just give a quick complaint about the overuse of cadmiums. The overuse of high chroma colors too early in the development of a painting. Believe me, I mean believe me, it's not going to do you any favors. Just because I like a color. No. You know, just don't do it. Wait. A painting can be a slow development. And if you have patience and self-discipline, and you withhold the best for last, you'll have actually a more enduring visual experience. Okay, I'm going to get too poetic. I'm making myself sick. Good thing I didn't use the word juxtaposition.